Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Tennova Healthcare. Across the state of Tennessee, Tennova is growing in order to better care for your needs. 12 hospitals, 1,400 doctors, more than 6,000 employees, and they're all there to serve one person, you. Tennova Healthcare. Learn more about them at tennova.com. All right, I want to welcome in the two final members of our panel today. We have Sterling Hinton, former Vol quarterback, and we have an Evolve for Life.
That's right.
His jacket says it. And then Chuck Cavaleris, of course. And Chuck, I'm going to start with you. We're going to look at the passing game. This is usually fame or blame.
Yes.
No fame, just blame. Quarterback situation. It looks to me like Josh Dobbs has regressed. He had games like this last year where he wasn't consistent as a passer, Missouri Vandy. But it looks like he's regressed. We heard in this offseason that Mike DeBoer, the new offensive coordinator, was going to work with him, tweak his footwork, tweak his stance. Do you think it's fair to say that possibly DeBoer might be to blame for some of Dobbs' screw-ups? Or are you thinking, nah, this is still just inconsistency on Dobbs' part?
I think it's almost as much a lack of confidence in what you're trying to do out there. I mean, if Josh Dobbs is not making plays with his feet, it makes that much more pressure on the passing game, and there's no easy throws for him. Where's the slot receiver in this offense? Like we've seen in every loss, go back and look at that has hurt Tennessee.
They miss Pig Howard terribly.
They do. Yeah. They do. So to me, it's a combination of things. I didn't like, a lot of times it looked like to me it was only like a 3-step drop, and he's trying to, to look to throw over or around people. So it's a combination of things, but he's definitely not gotten any better.
Well, here's the thing I'm seeing. I think there are some easy throws. When a man's open, granted, it may not be the slant, but when a man's open and you sail it over him or skip it to him, that goes back to the quarterback. And I'm seeing some of that. Sterling, let me ask you, let me phrase it a little differently. Phrase it a little differently for you.
Right.
How tough is it for a quarterback who's in his third year and somebody comes in and says, okay, we're going to change this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to change that. How tough is that for a quarterback to deal with?
It's incredibly tough. This is something I experienced personally in my career at UT. Coach Harris was around my first 2 years, including my redshirt year. Then Coach Hoffa came in, and then Coach Hoffa left in my senior year. Coach Cutcliffe moves the quarterback coach. It's difficult as a player, and but still players play the game. Players play the game. You start at that position because you're the best player to put production on the offense at that position, and it's tough, but it's just a hurdle that most athletes and a lot of ones we expect the University of Tennessee to get over.
All right. Will and Bob, let me ask you about routes. Receivers, Jimmy said it. If you go back to our preseason special and you find it online, I laid out which assistant should be on the hot seat entering the season. I said Zach Azzanni because this wide receiver crap shouldn't have been said. They haven't performed up to snuff. Now, take that as a challenge. Prove me wrong. Of course, I said that also in the preseason special. In terms of this receivers group, are they getting help in terms of routes? Rod Gilmore last night kept hitting on there's no intermediate routes. We've talked about that before this season. You don't see a lot of the slants. You don't see a lot of shallow crosses. When you do see him, it hits Von Pearson in the hands and he drops it. But are these guys getting help in terms of routes from their coaching staff?
There was a couple of times last night where I thought Tennessee had really nice combinations of routes. There was one of them that Dobbs threw to the wrong man, but I thought Tennessee's routes were pretty good. But except for a couple of times, and you're sitting in the stands so you don't really know, except for a couple of times, though, I thought their routes looked fairly vanilla. I don't think that Tennessee's doing anything with receivers to, okay, you and you are going to work on getting one or the other open. I think a lot of it is Tennessee's receivers are just running their own route, which doesn't seem to be in conjunction with other things.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, no, I don't think the receivers are getting a lot of help right now.
Will, very quickly.
I think the problem is the philosophy. It's an X and O's philosophy. It's not number 9 against number 14 on their team, get open on this guy because he's their worst defender. It's more our system, our plays, and the X's move here. Jerseys play against jerseys. Most coaches look at it and go, how do we get number 4 matched up against a linebacker, which is what Florida did last night and against us.
I don't know if it's most coaches. And I'm looking at the NFL on a weekly basis, I think the good coaches do that. Who's the weakest guy over there? How can we exploit him? Jimmy said, we were talking about Alvin Kamara before the show. How do you get him lined up on a linebacker, one-on-one? Are you motioning him out of the backfield and putting the defensive disadvantage? So I don't know that most coaches do it, but the good ones do.
Yeah.
The good ones sure do. Let me show you a stat right here. We put this online. If you ever go to sportsource.tv, it's not just an archive for our show. We have a lot of numbers, a lot of stuff that we write during the week. The throw game, as Butch Jones calls it. This is the last 3 years in the SEC. That's judging 42 teams. Teams at or above 7.7 yards per attempt passing win 68% of the time of their SEC games. All right. Only 2 of the 20 teams that completed threw for 7.7 yards per attempt had losing records. On the other side, if you were at or below 7.6 yards per attempt, 58 and 118 in SEC games, 32%. Only 3 of those 22 teams had winning records. Versus Arkansas last night, Tennessee was at 6.3 yards per attempt. For the season, 6.9 yards per attempt. That puts you in that second category where teams win about 32% of their games. In terms of the numbers, it's not looking good there in yards per attempt for Josh Dobbs or Tennessee. But let me ask you this very, very quickly, just for my former players. Word leaked out to media sources last week that Josh Dobbs might not be able to check off as much as he did last year. Butch Jones denied that. Then word kind of came out that he could only check into certain types of plays, couldn't go from a run to a pass, could only go into speed option, for example. Let's take Butch Jones at his word. Let's say he's telling the truth. How big of an issue is it that this stuff is coming from the team to the media at this point, that Dobbs can't check off? Whether that's true or not, should that be coming out of that locker room at this moment?
Well, who says it's coming out of the locker room? I don't think players will leak something like that. It's a certain badge of honor used not to bring that stuff out that's inside the meeting room. That's bad if it's happening. That's terribly bad on more cases than just media. Now, what I also would say is maybe it could be possible because he's out there with inexperienced receivers and inexperienced guys. I mean, North is not out there, Pig Halbert's not out there, Krumer's not out there. So it's very limited what you can do with certain guys. And I'd say that even to the receivers' production. So maybe some of the routes are vanilla because we don't have experienced guys out there. Josh is coming back, he's coming back real strong. Josh Smith is coming back strong. Get him out there a little bit more. But do not say certain things that are coming from the players unless you saw a player say it.
Well,
I think it's coming from the players because I know.
Think it all you want to. You're not in the locker room.
Well, do you really want to go here? Do you really want to go here?
I want to go right there.
You know who said it.
No,
you know where it came from.
I don't know who said it.
You were with me.
I wasn't there. I was with you.
I think here's the deal.
Where was I with you?
I think this is the deal.
Last Sunday.
So if it is coming from the players, it's a bad deal. So let's just say that. So you don't have to say it is or it isn't. If it is, it's not good for the team. Put it that
Parking
way.
lot, post game,
But
post show.
okay, post show, post play.
What? Okay. Not sure what that means, but all right, we'll move on. We got your Twitter questions coming up, and we'll also do some very pointed quick slants, I'm guessing, today. Come on back on the Sports Source.